Hey guys, welcome to That Florida Feeling. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you guys have had a good week. Hope you guys enjoyed hearing about roadside attractions again. Hopefully, you either learned about a new one or heard about one you wanted to visit. I know that we are either gearing up for spring break or just trying to find a way to escape the winter blues. It's kind of been cold this year. I'm over it. I mean, thankfully, it's warming back up finally. If you guys have not checked out Unfiltered Studios, definitely do so. There are some amazing people with great podcasts with a really cool variety of topics. So if you're looking for a new podcast, I definitely recommend giving Unfiltered Studios a view. You'll find some really cool stuff, really cool people, awesome topics. You really never know what you're going to find. All right, guys, today we're going to talk about a really cool little town right outside of Jacksonville, about an hour outside of Jacksonville with traffic. And that is Green Cove Springs. Green Cove Springs actually sits in Clay County, and it is part of the Jacksonville area. It is actually a city named after a part of the St. Johns River. And the river kind of curves here. And the area is really pretty, and it's always green, and hence part of the name Green Cove Springs. Now, the area is not new to people. It's been inhabited for a really long time by the Native Americans, and they were attracted to the spring that you can actually still see. And it's a hydrological spring, so it's kind of a warm spring. And a lot of people called this the original Fountain of Youth. And this was really kind of originally a spa town in the 1800s, and a lot of hotels, like more than a dozen hotels, were originally built near this spring to accommodate all the people. And it is, I'm not going to lie to you, it is sulfur scented. So when you first walk up, you're kind of like, ooh, but no, it's beautiful. And they've made really good use of it because today, this sulfur spring, I'm going to say sulfur spring because it really does smell like sulfur. But this spring water feeds a public swimming pool that you can actually swim in. It's really cool. It's a great community park with a swimming pool, and then you can see the spring, and then the spring flows into the St. Johns River, and you can walk right beside it. Now, the area was actually first originally developed by George J.F. Clark in 1816. He was provided land under a Spanish land grant, and he was originally supposed to build a sawmill, which he did. But Green Cove Springs was actually officially established in 1854. Its first name was White Sulphur Springs, and it was renamed in 1866, and it officially became the Clay County seat in 1871. So it's not a very new town, especially not to Florida. But it does rely mainly on two things. It relies on agriculture and tourism as its original two primary sources of income in the 1800s. And that was really based around the spring, which I could understand. Minus the smell, it's a beautiful area, and it's a really pretty spring. But thanks to Henry Flagler and his railroad, tourists began to go further south. And then another blow was dealt in 1895 when the Great Freeze destroyed a lot of the citrus crop through a lot of northern Florida. And then kind of tourism ended in northern Florida because people want to go further south. They could go further south. It stayed warmer longer. And so the area kind of had to redevelop. They kind of had to redo, they kind of refine themselves. They kind of had to figure out what they're doing now. And so in the 1920s, they had a renewed development. Automobile traffic came in. People rediscovered the area, and that was good for a while. And then, of course, the Great Depression hit, and growth kind of took a dive again. But of course, the city still stayed. You've heard of the city, so of course it stayed around. It still survives to this day. It's actually a really cool place. But one thing that did help the city actually was that there was a women's club. And actually, this was the first women's club in the state of Florida. And it was the first one established. It was in Green Cove Springs. It was in 1883, so it's very old. And it did help to keep the city alive and going. And also, the Village Improvement Association also led efforts to keep the town alive and to beautify the town, and even established the first public library. And that's really what helped keep the town going during these hard periods through the Great Depression and through the lack of tourism. Um, and then the period kind of before and during World War II also brought new growth to Green Cove Springs, as on September 11th, 1940, the U.S. Navy opened Naval Air Station Lee Field in honor of Ensign Benjamin Lee, who had lost his life in a crash in Killingham, England during World War One. In August of 1943, the facility was renamed Naval Air Station Green Cove Springs. It was consisting of 4 5,000-foot asphalt runways. So this brought jobs and people back to the area, and that helped as well. And of course, one of the people that actually trained at Lee Field was actually eventually would go on to be TV personality Ed McMahon. He was actually in Green Cove Springs for a while. Of course, after the war, NAS Green Cove Springs was downgraded in status to a Naval Auxiliary Air Station as part of Greater NAS Jax complex. 13 piers were also constructed along the bank of the St. Johns River, adjacent to the Green Cove Springs Naval Air Station, and that also housed a U.S. Navy Atlantic Reserve Fleet, housed about 500 vessels. So, they kept jobs in the area, kept people in the area. Unfortunately, that lasted only until about 1960, when the Navy decommissioned both the NAS Green Cove Springs and the pier facility. But the city kept growing, it kept moving. The river does tend to help with its economy. And in 1984, the city actually annexed the former naval base into the city for further use for growth. And it actually developed it into the Clay County Port and Reynolds Industrial Park. So repurposed it and reused it. The air station is now a private airfield, actually known as Reynolds Air Park. And if you've ever driven over the Shands Bridge into Green Cove, you've actually passed right past it. And it only has one single 5,000-foot asphalt runway that is currently in operation, apparently in poor condition, but it is still in use. The original air tower is still standing. The airfield is an uncontrolled facility, but it is still an airfield. And another cool thing is that Green Cove Springs does actually have kind of a cool person that came from it. Charles E. Merrill, one of the founders of Merrill Lynch, is actually from Green Cove Springs. The town's spring is described by Charles's son James Merrill in the poem Two from Florida that was published in the Inner Room in 1988. He actually talked really nicely about it. So, Green Cove Springs, if nothing, was not a good place to grow up. It is still a small town. I actually really like it. I can say that it's actually one of the nicer little small towns around Jacksonville. It's still homey. I got that small town feel. Also, Green Cove Springs is home to Gustafson's Farms, which is a brand name of milk and dairy products that are actually sold throughout Florida. The main Gustafson Dairy Farm is actually located in Green Cove Springs, and it is one of the largest privately owned dairy farms in the U.S. It was started in 1908, so it's been going for a very long time. The main farm occupies nearly 10,000 acres adjacent to the city limits. It has many bottling plants across the state, going from Tallahassee to the west, down to Tampa, and then Cocoa to the other side. All of Gustafson's pictures have a husband-wife founder of Frank and Agnes Gustafson, known as Mama and Papa Gus, along with their first cow named Buttercup on the packaging. So if you've ever shopped anywhere and you've seen that, you probably know what I'm talking about. So it's kind of cool. Some scenes from a Beam monster movie, Blood Waters of Dr. Z, were also filmed in Green Cove Springs. So, it's got a little claim to fame. It also is very historic. I mean, there are plenty of places that are on the National Register of Historic Places. The Clay County Courthouse is on the Register of Historic Places. It's actually a beautiful old white building. It was built back in 1889, and it was used until 1973. It sits on Walnut Street, and it is part of the county's historic triangle. It's actually a really cool old building. If you ever get the chance to drive past it or walk past it, it's just a really pretty old building. And then, of course, there is the Green Cove Springs Historic District, which itself is a really neat little area to walk through. It was actually designated in March of 1991. It is bound by Bay Street, the CSX Railroad tracks, Center Street, Orange Avenue, St. Elmo Street, and St. John's Road. It actually contains over 78 historic buildings and one structure. It's got some beautiful, beautiful houses in this area. I love walking through that area when I'm down there. It's, first of all, it's such a nice little area to walk through. Well, certain parts, and there's some amazing little areas. Also, there's a really great coffee shop. Spring Park Coffee is a great coffee shop. I can't recommend enough. It's right up from Spring Park, which is the park where the swimming pool is with the spring. The park itself is actually really nice. They have a really good playground. It's right on the river. You always see people down there fishing and playing and just sitting and enjoying the view. There's a public pier. It's next to the marina. It's actually a really great setup for this town. Another Register of Historic Places is St. Mary's Church. It is a Gothic church located on St. John's Avenue. It was built, I don't remember when it was built. Let me look. It was actually, so St. Mary's was actually organized in 1878 as a mission out of the Episcopal Diocese of Florida. And really what happened is Green Cove Springs was actually a popular winter resort at the time. That's really what happened. And then they discovered like the spring. That's really kind of when people started coming down. And the people who really came more were from like the Boston area. And a woman from Boston wrote Bishop John Freeman Young and asked that a chapel be built in the town to serve the seasonal guest. And that's really how they ended up building this church. And the winter visitors and year-round residents actually raised more than $1,000 to build the church on a donated lot that was worth $500 back then. It'd be so much more today. And the first service was held on March 10th, 1879. And the building actually stands on 3-foot high piers, and it's about 40 feet from the St. Johns River. And it really is right next to the river. And it's beautiful. It has gorgeous stained glass windows. The windows were actually created by Henry E. Sharp, who is an amazing stained glass window artist. And it's probably one of the earliest examples of American designed and manufactured stained glass in Florida. So beautiful historic church. And it's really cool because there's a really beautiful portrait of the angel Gabriel in the center window above the altar. So if you're into stained glass or history, go check out that church. Another thing in Green Cove, for those music lovers, the Hell House, the original rehearsal studio to Lynyrd Skynyrd, actually is in Green Cove Springs. So it's a really unassuming town. It's got a great small town feel to it, right outside of Jacksonville. And Lynyrd Skynyrd hung out there. Of course, it's been around for a very long time. The post office was actually established in Hibernia, which was an actually unincorporated community originally off Highway 17 on the bank of St. Johns River. In 1849, its name was changed to Magnolia Mills eventually, and then finally Green Cove Springs. So it's been around for a very, very long time, like I said. It's got, like I said, a cute little downtown area. I love the coffee shops there. There's a great pizza place next to the coffee shop that, for the life of me, cannot remember the name of it right now. But if you're looking for a small town to visit, to roam around in, to walk right by the St. Johns River. I definitely recommend checking it out. There is another very cool thing that is in Green Cove Springs. There is the Military Museum of North Florida. And it's really cool because there's this large, I think it's a ship. It might be I don't really know what's sitting outside of it. I've never asked every time we've gone. But it's a museum, and it's got ship models, military vehicles, uniforms, weapons, equipment, flags. And it's right outside. It's on State Route 16 and Bunker Avenue. It's like at the corner. And it's at the site of the former Green Cove Springs Naval Air Station. And they have a D-Day exhibit. And it's just a really cool museum. And it's a really great addition to the small town. But it's great for those military historians. And it's something interesting for this little town, especially with all the military history that goes on in Jacksonville. So another interesting thing, if you're looking for something to do in Jacksonville, just drive 45 minutes to an hour, depending on what part of Jacksonville you're in, over to Green Cove Springs. Check out the Springs Park and the Springs. Check out the small coffee shops and the amazing pizzeria next to it. Check out the military museum. Take a walk down the small side streets and take a walk through history. See how the snowbirds would have lived before they all took Henry Flagler's Railroad down to South Florida. I hope you guys have enjoyed learning about a small town in Florida that I guess kind of intends on staying small, but in a good way. No Florida man this week. I keep looking, and all the Florida men are just doing really bad things, not stupid things right now. I don't know. Although, no, I did post about the woman who's taunting the police to come get her. I posted that on Instagram. She posted on Facebook. She actually reposted something about herself and said, y'all can't find me. So, Florida woman's doing her thing, I guess. Yeah, I guess Florida woman's showing out this week. But, guys, I hope you guys have an amazing week. Happy Valentine's Day again. Don't forget to be nice. Just be nice. Drink your water, guys. Wear your sunscreen. And as always, guys, that's your daily dose of sunshine.
This podcast is a production of Unfiltered Studios. If you would like to know more about joining Unfiltered Studios, please visit our website at unfpod.com for more information.